Welcome to Help, I Have Kids. I'm your host, Pam Marshall, a mom of 5 and a pediatric occupational therapist with over 35 years experience. This podcast is designed to equip you with practical tools, insights from experts, and real life stories. Because at the end of the day, you are the head of your child's care team. Each week, you'll hear from pediatric experts and fellow moms like you that will help build your confidence. They'll offer clarity and empower you to make informed decisions that work for your whole family. Hey moms, welcome back to Help, I Have Kids podcast. I have a special guest. My friend Allison is with us today. She's a marriage and family therapist. And she has a master's degree from the University of Kentucky and is a play therapist in a very specific certification. And we want to hear about that. Can you tell us a little bit about you, Allison?
So I'm working toward becoming a registered play therapist with the Association of Play Therapy. And so part of this process is getting more supervision and coursework in specific types of play therapy. And so in my trainings, I have been exploring different forms of play therapy. And when I heard about AutPlay Therapy, I thought about the kids that I work with, the families that I serve, and I felt like this form of play therapy was something really important for me to do. And so I pursued certification in AutPlay Therapy in my process of becoming a registered play therapist, because this is a population that I want to continue to work with, that I enjoy working with. And so I think we'll talk about that a little bit more, but AutPlay Therapy in a very brief sense is a neuroaffirming approach to play therapy, meaning that I follow the child's lead and that the goal is not changing the child, but meeting the child where they're at and helping them build tools to navigate the world around them a little bit differently.
So I know parents have heard of play therapy, but how does it differ from what moms know as talk therapy? They hear that, at least, like you have talk therapy, you have play therapy, and these terms are thrown around. But if you describe that for the moms that are listening, what exactly is the difference?
So I think this is one of the biggest misconceptions about pediatric mental health therapy is we assume that children are just going to come sit on a couch and talk about their feelings and their behaviors the way we go to a therapist and we talk about everything. But that's really not developmentally appropriate for young children. So play therapy, period, is just how children learn to communicate, how they learn to do much of anything and make sense of their world. And so play therapy is it's an evidence-based approach that uses play to help children express themselves, process their world and their experiences, and build emotional skills that will go with them throughout the rest of their life.
So what is a typical session? Describe that. So if a mom listening says, "Oh, I think I want to choose play therapy for my child," what would that typical session look like? Like, would the mom come in? Would the mom be observing, or would it be, I know it depends on ages, but describe a little bit. Give the moms listening a practical understanding of what a session might look like.
Yeah, so typically this is going to depend on the goals of treatment. Like I said, there's lots of different types of play therapy. So there's directive approaches, there's non-directive approaches, there's family play therapy. There is filial play therapy where the parents learn the therapeutic skills, and I would teach them those skills, and then they would be the ones who are the agents for change with their children. But it's definitely not I drop my child off and the therapist plays with them for an hour and somehow all this magic happens behind closed doors. So in the beginning of my work, it's really about learning the child, learning the family, so that I know what approach is going to best fit. And so this this may look very different, but the playroom itself is full of information. So as a child or as a family is engaging with the room itself, I'm getting information and I'm learning, like, how are they interacting? Are they separating from their caregiver securely? Are they responding when I'm setting limits for safety? Is the child engaging in me, or are they playing on their own? How are they solving problems? And then, I am trained to be able to pick up on different themes of play. And so are there things underlying the behavior that the parent is coming to you with that can help us navigate and help the child in a developmentally appropriate way navigate play? So a child will typically come in. There is definitely a time when, even though parents are an important part of the process, there is time when I play with just the child in the room, and then I meet every so often with a parent to help discuss any concerns that they might have, talk about goals and progress in treatment, maybe any observations that I've made, or if a parent needs like additional support or training, help them at home. We may do that outside of out of the playroom. I do not talk about children in front of children, because I think that the therapeutic relationship is one of the most important parts, and I don't want to be a person in a child's life who's talking about them in front of them. So I prefer to do that with a parent alone. Same thing with an intake. I prefer to meet with a parent so that I can get full understanding of what's going on.
That's actually a great model for our parents, because parents shouldn't be talking about their children in front of their children.
Yeah.
And I mean, the only time that is warranted is when you're using it for positive, like you're letting the child overhear you tell dad or another person what a wonderful job they did at so-and-so, or explaining it in an encouraging way, and you're reinforcing a positive behavior. That's the only time you should be talking in front of your child about their behavior. It's so damaging, right, for parents or caregivers to talk negatively in front of the child. Very damaging. I bet it hurts your heart when you know that's happened.
Yeah. And I think, children are really good at giving us signals when they're uncomfortable. Like a lot of times in the beginning, maybe I'm asking, "Oh, like how was your weekend?" I'm very friendly when I'm talking with parents, and so you'll hear kids be like, "I'm bored." Like, can we just go play? Like, are we ready? And so I try to keep those interactions moving and short. I still want the parent to feel heard and understood, because they are agents for change, and they are very important in the work that we do. I still want to make that connection with the parent and check in with them, but we're just not talking about big things. I do appreciate when parents are able to brag on their kid a little bit ahead of I see them growing and changing, or we had a really fun play date this week, and they used their skills that they're learning. And so when I hear that and see that, I'm like, yes, because that helps the child know, oh, my mom is seeing progress in me, and it reinforces those things that we want to see long-term developing.
So what's something you're really proud of? Like something that, as a play therapist, you've watched. I'm sure you get to watch kids transform and choose new thought patterns and choose to believe truth about themselves. I mean, all kinds of fun stuff you get to observe, but what's something you're really proud of?
One of the things that I enjoy the most about my work with kids in the playroom is seeing them. So oftentimes, children will come in and they'll stay with a play scheme. And so they'll work through the same play every single time they come in. And one of the most powerful things is watching them problem solve and attempt and take risks in the room with alternate solutions, or they'll things will vary just slightly. And I can tell this is them doing the work. And so when I see them trying new solutions, or when I see their satisfaction of like how a problem is solved, or like when a play scheme resolves itself and we move on to something new, those are big signals to me. Um, I also think it's really powerful when children, um, like I work with a lot of children who struggle with social anxiety or engaging with peers. And so when I hear them talk about building new friendships or doing something new outside of the room and in their day to day life, those things I feel like are really important too. Like I always get really excited when I hear those.
That's so great. Must feel really good to have those interactions and accomplishments. So tell me about your room. What does a play therapy room look like? What could a parent expect and a child expect when they come to play therapy?
Yeah. So play therapists are really good about being creative with space. There's like with certain types of therapy, there are recommendations to have certain types of toys in your room. And depending on where you live and the population that you work with, the things in the playroom might be different. But I have
Like
a bunch
cultural, like culture,
yes,
you're talking about like cultural differences, or, because what one family unit experiences is culturally different maybe than another type of family. And so you're keeping that in mind.
yes. Or if I live in an area and there are common things that might happen. So we have experienced more tornadoes in more recent years. And so I added some things to my room intentionally to allow children to process that, because I noticed that was coming up a lot, that children were, really concerned about weather and weather related activity. And so I added some things in my room to help engage them in processing that. Um, if I was working in a population where like there was a lot of domestic violence, or if there was war going on, or if there was some type of like catastrophic event, I would adjust my toy selection to help the child engage in that process. But in here, and you can see a little bit behind me, but I have a puppet theater, I have puppets, I have art supplies, I have different types of sensory materials. I have lots of mini figurines, I have a sand tray, a dollhouse, different building materials, stones, blocks, lots of things. And the goal is not to have like every toy imaginable, but it's just to help provide some tools for them to communicate and process their experiences.
And one thing that's fun that I've witnessed with you, because what parents may not know is our offices are not typical mental health offices. We have other types of therapy in our building. So we have a sensory play gym. We have spaces that you go into sometimes
Yes.
with your children. And that's so fun because you can interact with other children in the gym. You can, and sometimes it's appropriate to interact and sometimes it's not. But I have seen you quietly be in a space on a swing with a child that the purpose is just a safe place to talk. Whereas an occupational therapist might use a swing in a different way, you're able to use the swing as a calming, just sweet connecting place. And I've observed that when I've seen you in action. And that's kind of fun that you get that space as well.
Yeah, it's such a gift to work here and have access to that. Every child is different and all of them have different needs. And so some kids do really well in a confined space. I work with some children who never want to go out there. They want to stay in here. And sometimes that helps me know if we're making progress. If they're like, I'm wondering if we can go do something out there. And that kind of signals to me like, oh, we're feeling comfortable here. And like we're feeling safe. And this child trusts me. And so I think that is a true gift, because I do get access to those tools, and I have some children like their bodies never stop moving. And so if I have them in here, they feel trapped. They feel it doesn't build safety for their nervous system. But if they're able to move their body and run, and if I do obstacle courses with them, that is our way of connecting. That's the way I'm meeting the child where they're at and what they need in that moment. One of the founding fathers of play therapy, Gary Landreth, he has these be with attitudes, and it's I'm here, I hear you, I understand, I care, and I delight in you. And it's just communicating unconditional acceptance to the child.
It makes me
And
cry when you say that.
and like that, I think that is like what drives me is like, I want this child to know that there is an adult in their life that is just there with them, that unconditionally accepts them, that sees and hears them. And so, yeah, whether that's moving their body out there, in here, sometimes I do set limits depending on, is it beneficial to the child, and more often than not it is. And so sometimes I provide space for us to do things out there and then also do things in here, so that I think that there's a balance.
That's really neat. I love that you get this unique experience, and you've really let integrate into your care and into your treatment. So great. So how long does a session typically last? A parent may wonder that. And how do you know the child you're working with is making progress and when it's time to discharge? So talk a little bit about that.
Sure.
Before we wrap up.
A typical session is between 30 and 60 minutes, depending on the age. Some children, they need shorter sessions. They do not do well with long sessions. Or sometimes in the beginning, separating from parents is hard. So maybe we do part of the session with the parent and part of the session just with the child. And so that may look a little bit different. Now, in terms of change, sometimes parents come in expecting this dramatic change, like the tantrums are just going to suddenly disappear.
Yeah.
Anxiety is going to vanish. They're just going to start talking about their feelings, and they're going to be like, "Mom, I'm so mad. I just want to punch everything." Rather than just their body going and doing those things, right? So I work with parents to try to create the most appropriate goal for their child. And it's not the absence of the big feelings, but their ability to handle those feelings in more healthy and age-appropriate ways. And so sometimes it's just being able to identify, oh, I think that was anger that I was feeling, or I think I'm feeling worried that this might happen, or they're able to tolerate losing in a game without flipping the game board, or they're able to communicate, "I'm overstimulated. I need a break. Can we go to a different room?" So progress may look different. But parents, they tell me lots of different things in terms of how their child is progressing. And so improved emotional regulation, increased sense of safety. They're more aware of the world around them. They're communicating their needs better. They might show up and be more responsible. They might do more creative problem solving. They might have more empathy for other people around them. Maybe the parent and the child feel closer and more connected and more in tune with one another. It looks very different, but those are some of the ways that we see progress.
And yeah, it sounds like you not only see progress in the child, but you see progress in the family. So I know me as a mom, when I was trying to decide what's the right next step for my kid, and you think of all the moms listening today deciding, is play therapy right? Is it really worth it? Is it going to help? What would a piece of truth, what would you say to them as they're in this decision-making process?
Yeah. So I think sometimes parents do come in and they're definitely on the fence of does my child need this? And I think it's, it's not a question of is your child ever going to struggle again? I can't promise you, when parents come in, I'm I can't promise you that. I can't promise you that your child's going to be compliant after following therapy, right? But I also want to acknowledge therapy is an investment. It's time, it's money, it's emotional energy. And I know that decision does not come lightly when parents choose to come do the work with me. And so it's not a commitment to months or years, but coming in saying like, what is my child communicating, or is this developmentally appropriate? Is something more going on? And having just a conversation about, hey, this is what we're noticing. Do you think this would be helpful for us? Sometimes it's just the initial conversation of like, is this even something we need to try?
And don't you think too, some parents need to know what's an approximate end date? Because not everybody has the luxury in their life or their schedule. Some people, they're just trying to work and put food on the table. And this is a hardship, like you said, that how much can we get done in 12 sessions, or how much can we get done in 20 sessions, or setting some kind of goal of let's evaluate after 12 sessions, see where we are. So it doesn't feel like it's this never ending thing that I'm always coming to therapy or bringing my child to therapy. Because people have different, things going on in their lives. And sometimes 12 weeks is better than none, than zero.
And I think too, when I think about it, it's like, if a parent is able to tell me, I finally understand what's going on with my child, I know a better way that works better for both of us. I think even that it is getting benefit out of therapy. And so regardless of what that looks like, if people come in just for a couple sessions, or if they come in for 12 sessions, or if they work with me for a year, I agree with you. I think that even just a simple conversation, and sometimes as parents, like even for someone to just normalize, hey, actually what your child is experiencing right now is normal. Like I have 3.5-year-old twins, and I have some patients around that age, and I just look at the mom and I'm like, hey, I'm right there in it with you. And sometimes we just need to hear that, like, oh, she has children, and she also gets where I'm coming from right now. And sometimes that in and of itself is part of our village, part of our support, and part of us as parents having more tolerance or understanding for what is happening with our children.
Yeah. And so where does a mom, if she's choosing play therapy, where does she find a play therapist? What credentials is she looking for, and how does she find her?
Yeah, so I don't necessarily think that a parent needs to seek out a registered play therapist. It's a lot of coursework. It's a huge commitment. Now, the Association of Play Therapy does have like a registrar of the registered play therapist or registered play therapy supervisors in the area. But I would ask questions. Like I would look, does this person have specific coursework or training in this area, especially if there's a specific circumstance or like, a diagnosis that your child is experiencing, like OCD. You want a person who has specific training for OCD, or if a child is dealing with anxiety or just adjustment to like a period, something's happening in their life, or if they're dealing with trauma. You want someone who at least is knowledgeable and is aware of what your child may need in the process and how they're going to navigate that. So ask questions. I'm always surprised with the amount of families that don't ask me questions like, where's your degree from? What's your training in? How does this work? Why does this work? Ask the question.
Yeah. Being assertive, asking questions.
Yes.
I could talk to you all day because I love this topic, but I know that we can't talk all day. So just to wrap it up, moms, we want to leave you with this. You don't have to wait for a crisis. You don't have to be in crisis to get the support you need. That, if things feel like they're starting to fall apart a little bit, but you're not in a crisis, get out now. There are therapists who have training like Allison that can help your child emotionally, help you know what to do to manage their behaviors, and trust that you can do it. You are the head of your child's care team. And I think you can get the right support early enough for all of you to thrive and be healthy and whole. So if this episode resonated with you moms, I'd love for you to share it with another mom. If you haven't yet, try sharing it, and then come back and watch all of our episodes. Come back next Wednesday and find another one. But I really appreciate your help, Allison, just communicating how moms can find the help that they need. So thanks.
Yeah, thanks for having me, and thanks for allowing me to advocate for play therapy. It's something I'm so passionate about, and there's so many different, like I said, so many different forms that can meet a wide variety of children's needs.
Oh, so true. Thanks for listening, moms. Thanks so much for listening to Help, I Have Kids. If you're tuning into this podcast, that means you're a mom who's curious, committed, and ready to learn. And we see you. We'd love for you to join our Help, I Have Kids Facebook community, where moms just like you are connecting, asking questions, and encouraging each other every day. It's a space for real conversations, expert insight, and support from moms who get it, because we're all in this together. And if you know a mom who's feeling unsure or maybe overwhelmed, or just needs to be reminded that she can do it, she can advocate for her child with confidence, share this episode with her. We're building a village here, and we're glad you're a part of it.
Partial Pediatric Therapy.
Helping families build skills for life.